Hello and welcome to this session. In this session, let us focus on a very important topic which is given as a case study in MCS 203 Operating Systems of Postgraduate Diploma in Computer Applications. The topic for today's discussion is Android operating system. As you know, this Android operating system is very popular among the mobile operating systems. It supports many devices. As listed on the slide, you can see smartphones, tablets, e-readers, netbooks, portable music players, game consoles, cameras, even Android TVs. In automobiles also nowadays we are using the Android operating system. The list is endless. So this particular operating system is very much popular in most of the devices. Why? Because this pertains to open source software. So people directly can download the source code or else download from its website and can use this Android operating system onto their devices. So that makes this particular operating system a very popular operating system. So let us see some interesting facts which are round about Android. The Android itself means a human with a male robot appearance. You had seen the logo also. It implies a light green color robo. So the word itself means a human with a male robot appearance. In California in 2003, Andy Rubin is the person who founded the Android Incorporation. And in November 2007, Google launched the Linux-based software system called as Android operating system after acquiring this particular Android Incorporation company. Andy Rubin, Android's co-creator, were responsible for the name choice, not only in the devices that we had earlier discussed, but NASA also has used this Android. They had sent two Nexus S handsets running Android Gingerbread into space to test their sensors in orbit aboard the International Space Station. There are over 24,000 various phones and tablets that run on Android globally. I am not talking about the number of phones, I am talking about the variety of phones. So 24,000 phones, variety of phones are using this particular Android operating system. This Android is available in around 46 languages. This is also one of the factors why it got very much popularity. This also means apps can be produced in different languages to cover a wide variety of audience. So you can see 48 languages means roughly it covers most of the official languages of the world. In 2015, Android operating system was on 81.61% of all smartphones that were sold in that year. So you can see the vast penetration of this particular Android operating system. It covered almost 81% in 2015. Android's logo is not actually called Android. However, Google unofficially call him as Bug Droid. So Android releases, you can see the versions that they put are similar to that of the confectionery and desserts of a bakery items. They started with cupcake, donut, eclair, gingerbread, honeycomb, so what not. They had kept that particular version names as to that of the confectionery and desserts available in the bakery so as to attract the whole market. So let us come on to the introduction part. So this Android operating system, it was released in September 2008. This is free, open source. Open source, what is the basic difference between open source and the product based? It is nothing but availability of the code and no more hassles with the license and other kinds of features. So this is open source operating system, and basically it is based on the modified version of the Linux, which is once again an open source software. So that is the main reason why it got that much popularity. Linux it is a basic stabilized version. So it is using the Linux kernel, and then this particular Android is completely based on the lighter version of the Linux kernel. So it is mainly designed for touchscreen devices such as smartphones and tablets. First of all, this particular mobile operating system, which was designed in earlier 2007, that was meant for cameras, not actually for the mobile phones. However, they wish to use it for the cameras, and later on it found its appearance on several vast variety of devices. So it works on the platforms ranging from 32-bit to 64-bit ARM processors, and then x86 processors, x86 to 64. So these are various kinds of platforms wherein which Android can be ported onto. Android is an open source software for mobile devices and a corresponding open source project led by Google. So let us see the evaluation part, how it got evolved over the years that we are seeing right now, the Android 12 version. So Andy Rubin was the founder. He founded Android Incorporation in October 2003, and later Google acquired the Android Incorporation by paying him a huge amount. Its initial intention is for camera, as they have less market, and it later on changed to support all kinds of mobile devices. Android Incorporation was acquired by Google in 2005 by paying a huge lot of money to Andy Rubin. However, Andy Rubin also got into the Google while working with the next generation of the Android operating systems. Key employees of Android Incorporation, namely Andy Rubin, the founder, Rich Miner, Chris White, stayed at the company after the acquisition. So they were working with Google during this development of the Android operating system. Google announced the development of Android operating system in 2007, and Android launches its first Android mobile device. After acquisition, a team led by Rubin developed a mobile device platform implemented using Linux kernel. So Google marketed the platform to handset makers and carries on the promise of providing a flexible, upgradable system. All its upgrades in the form of versions or in the form of patches are available on android.com. So there are some official websites which I will be discussing through in the later on stage towards the end, wherein which you can have the feel of their websites, or else what are the contents of most of the websites which supports the Android development features. So you can see the various kinds of Android versions. There was the launch of Android 1.0 in 2008, and that particular Android doesn't have any version name as such. However, during the evolution of this particular Android versions, there is a wide variety of version names, which I told you it pertains to the bakery items. So currently from 2019 onwards, so 19 we had got the stabilized version of Android 10, which most of our smartphones are working on. So Android 10 not only pertains to the work of the smart mobile phones, however, it is ported onto several devices in the automobiles, then on the tabs, on the TV that we are watching, Android TVs. So this Android 10 is a stable version, and later on in 2020, last year, they had released Android 11. Right now in October 2021, they had come out with Android 12 version. However, it is in the beta stage and they are testing, and this particular downloading of Android 12 operating system is always available on their official website. So you yourself also can download this Android 12. So the beauty of the Android operating system is it comes up with whenever it comes up with the new version, obviously the patches are being forwarded to us. Like if you see your own mobile phone, so whenever there is a software update, it obviously a small window pops up and then it will tells you there is an update available. So obviously people will click on it, and then depending upon the phone features or else depending upon the other configuration features on the hardware, it obviously downloads and works with fine. So the salient features which makes it very much popular are, first of all, the user interface. It is having a beautiful user friendly interface which allows the user ease of access and can learn and operate the device quickly. As you can see, whenever we operate our own mobile phone, it doesn't require any kind of training. So whenever we wish to explore the features, the new features or else the existing features, and we by it ourselves, the hands-on, we will be feeling the ease of use of this particular operating system. Next point is the storage part. So whenever we talk about the phone, obviously we talk about the background or else the back end of the phone, that is the database part. So this Android uses SQLite. SQLite being a very popular relational database database management system, this particular SQLite is being embedded as the database management system in this particular Android. The other feature is the file manager. So data storage related activities will be managed by the file manager. It looks after the whole file management scheme of the telephone or else the device that it is based upon. Then comes the media. In this media, there are wide variety of formats. You can see on the slide, right from JPEF, PNG, GIF, BMP, there are wide variety of media formats which will be supported by Android. Then the messaging part, not only SMS, MMS, it works with several messaging applications. And then comes the salient feature, the connectivity. So Android provide various range of connectivity like GSM, Edge technology, CDMA, Wi-Fi, LTE, near field communication, WiMAX. So there are several kinds of it supports several kinds of connectivity mechanisms. Then it is having the GPS feature. It contains multiple application program interfaces to support location tracking services such as GPS. So we can do the multitasking. It has the multi-touch support. Widgets, like Android operating system provides widgets which allow the user to have organize the apps based on their requirements. Then the screen capture feature is available, screen recording feature is available. Suppose if you don't have the internet at that point of time, and if you wish to transfer some sort of files to your fellow peer and who are very much placed near within a range of 50 meters, then you can use the near field communication. Android provides a short range of wireless connection. Directly you can transfer the files using this NFC technology. Then recording capability is there. WebKit layout, which we will be coming it once again when we discuss about the architecture of the Android. So this particular WebKit layout is also possible. Virtual reality, it provides support for virtual reality or 2D animations, 3D graphics, whatever the case may be. Customization is possible. So customization is the best feature or best quality of this particular operating system. So depending upon your taste, depending upon your requirements, you can always do the customization at your end. So let us see the layered architecture of Android operating system. As it is laid out on this particular slide, the block diagram, you can see Linux kernel is the basic part, which is the lightweight Linux kernel is the basis on which this whole architecture is built upon. So one is the Linux kernel, libraries, Android runtime, application framework, and then top upon the top layer is the applications layer. So this is completely a layered architecture with the ground basis of Linux, lightweight Linux kernel. So one by one, let us see what are the functionalities of each and every component. So why Android uses Linux kernel? What kind of libraries it uses? What is exactly the Android runtime? Because we had heard about the Java runtime. So what exactly is the Android runtime? What exactly is the application framework? And what are the components of the topmost layer, that is the application layer? So coming to the Linux kernel, which is the prominent and the basic component of the whole architecture, Linux with version 3.6 is the bottommost layer, which is the fundamental layer of the Android operating system. So the bottom layer offers a level of abstraction between hardware, and it contains all the essentials required for the hardware drivers like camera, keypad, display, etc. So this is the fundamental and foundation component of any operating system. So this is the abstraction between the hardware and the other parts of the system. Also, the kernel handles all the things. Linux is really good at networking. As you had heard, many of the networking can be done using the Linux, and then handling device drivers, which take the pain out of interfacing to peripheral hardware. And then comes the next component called as the libraries component. So what kind of libraries are available inside the package? One is the web browser engine WebKit. Then SQLite is the next library we are having. For secured socket layers, we have SSL libraries. And then few more Java based libraries are available. Application framework libraries are available. So this, along with the open source library called as the web browser engine WebKit, a collection of popular libraries like libc and other kinds of things are available. SQLite, as I told you, that is the database which is useful repository for storage and sharing of application data, libraries to play and record video, audio and other kinds of applications. SSL libraries responsible for internet security and other kinds of features. So Java based libraries are used for the purpose of development of Android operating system. Whenever you have the phone, it obviously provides a support called as development facility also. So you yourself, suppose if you are a programmer, a good programmer, you yourself also can try some programs using your handset. The application framework libraries, in addition to these, that facilitate user interface building, graphics drawing and database access. So let us see the Android runtime. We had heard about the Java runtime, but let us see what exactly this Android runtime is. This section is the part of libraries layer which contains a key component called as DV machine, that is Dalvik virtual machine. Just like we had seen the Java virtual machine JVM for the Java based applications, here the basic component, the key component here in this layer is the Dalvik virtual machine, that is called as Dalvik VM, which is an optimized Android library, acts just like a JVM for Java. So that Dalvik VM makes use of Linux core features like memory management and multi-threading, which is intrinsic in the Java language. So this DVM enables every Android application to run in its own process with its own instance of the DVM. The Android runtime also provides a set of core libraries which enable Android application developers to write Android applications using standard Java programming language. So not only it supports the running part or else in the architecture part, however, it supports in the developmental part also. So coming to the other component which is very important called as the application framework. We had seen several high level services will be provided to the applications through application framework layer. So the basic job of framework is to provide high level services. These application services are available in the form of Java classes. So obviously you had seen The basic parts of the architecture which the Android is using is primarily the Linux operating system, and most of the things are in line with the Java things. So these application services are also available in the form of Java classes. So all these things pertains to the open source software once again, which is freely available, and also the code is available on the websites. So this makes this particular operating system itself very much popular. Application developers can use these services in their applications also. So Android framework, let us see, focus on the Android for what all the components it consists of. So it includes the activity manager. Activity manager is nothing but it controls all aspects of the application life cycle and the activity stack. This manager is responsible for controlling the whole life cycle of the application and the activity stack. And the second thing is the content providers. It allows the applications to publish and share data with other applications. This is nothing but a kind of interface wherein which it helps one application to share the data with the other application. Like if you can see, always there will be a pop-up window just like the share camera or else share location kinds of things. So which exactly is nothing but they are sharing the data. One application is trying to share the data of the other application. So this content provider and activity manager are the prime participants in that particular area. Then comes the resource manager. It provides access to non-code embedded resources such as strings, color settings and user interface layouts. And then notification manager is responsible for allowing applications to display alerts and notifications to the users. So whenever a notification reaches in the form of an SMS, MMS or else even WhatsApp message, obviously a pop-up window will appear onto your screen which displays the kind of alert. So this is the notification manager is the primarily the support component which is supporting such kind of a feature. Then comes the Windows manager. It allows the applications to apply various operations on window like create, minimize, resize, etc. So the whole window resizing, window creation, expansion, compression, so all kinds of these activities can be used using this Windows manager. Then there is an important component called as the view system. This is an extensible set of views used to create application user interfaces. So this view system, you can see a click button, you can see a text box. So there are several user interface controls in order to provide a rich user experience. This view system is the component which will be helping you to do so. Coming to the applications layer. So among the 5 layers, the topmost layer is the applications layer. The top layer of Android architecture is the applications layer. It contains all the available Android application users that have to install their own applications on this layer. So there are wide variety of applications available in Google Play Store. That is nothing but Android Play Store. Some lakhs of applications are available. So this particular layer is the actual container. It contains all the available Android applications. So this is the basic layer which is actually taking parts in order to handle all the download and then working of the applications. So browser, games, contact books are some of the examples of such applications. The application layer runs within the Android runtime using the classes and services made available from the application framework. So you can see here right now the component that we had discussed just earlier. So that is the actual component which is providing the classes and services to these applications. Then comes how the process. What is a process? Program in execution is called as a process or else processes. So how the process handling is taking place in Android. So in the core operating systems, we had seen several processes handling. So in MCS 203, Unit 2, Unit 3, we had studied about the process handling in various operating systems. So the basic functions of the operating systems are process management, memory management, device management, error handling, providing security features, and then handling the the secondary memory and other kinds of things. File management is one important functions. So here in Android, the process handling is done. It creates process for each application, and all the components are running from a main thread. In low power and low memory, Android automatically manages the processes and kills the least used or inactive processes. So basically, when we talk about the normal operating systems that we use for the desktop and the laptop, we don't care that much regarding the energy, like the power and the memory part. We don't care because we can get ample memory. But within a small device, we have to incorporate several things, and that too, all the operating systems needs to be working on the particular mobile device. So every function, whatever that the operating system does, mobile operating system does for that particular mobile device, obviously the primary concern should be the power and the memory. Why? Because both of them are limited in nature. So low power is the requirement and low memory consumption is also the requirement. So this Android automatically manages the applications or else the processes that we are talking about in a low power and low memory constraint. So it automatically kills. Suppose if there are several processes activated and which are of no use, not used by the other components of the application, so those will be, that inactive processes will be obviously killed in order to lower the power or else lower the memory. So this particular handling is being done in Android operating system. Coming to the inter-process communication, Android offers a mechanism for using remote procedure calls, in which a method is called by an activity, other application or other application component, but executed memory with any result returned back to the caller. So completely you can see IPC is based on remote procedure calls. So this is the basic thing that will be used by Android in order to have the inter-process communication, because one process wants to talk to the other process, maybe in order to send the data, maybe in order to send some sort of communication. So there should be a dialogue between the processes that are being activated by the parent thread. So this particular IPC can be achieved by the remote procedure calls. So this entails decomposing a method call and its data to a level the operating system can understand, transmitting it from the local process and address space to the remote process, and the address space then reassembling and reenacting the call there. So it is a kind of split mechanism that is being used over here. Return values are then transmitted in the opposite direction. So Android provides all the code to perform these IPC transactions, so you can focus on defining and implementing the RPC programming interface. So whenever we work with the process management in Android, the limited knowledge of calling the remote procedures, binding them, so binding the service, so such kind of functionalities is the primary requirement or minimum requirements in order to go for the programming whenever we do for the process management handling in Android. Then the next important function of Android is the memory management. So I told you that the inactive processes needs to be killed, or else whatever the unused processes that are there, they should be compiled and then they should be removed from the system in order to manage the memory very effectively. The Android runtime, that is called as the ART and DVM, use paging and memory mapping to manage the memory. Here you can see there are wide variety of schemes that we had studied in our first block of MCS 203, like the paging, segmentation, demand paging, then paged segmentation, segmented paging. So several kinds of techniques we had studied over there. But Android follows a typical kind of thing called as the paging scheme. This means that any memory an app modifies, whether by allocating new objects or touching memory mapping pages, they remains resident in RAM and cannot be paged out. So this is how we had already studied the whole paging scheme. So this is permanently following the same kind of paging scheme without any modification. The only way to release memory from an app is to release object references that the app holds, making the memory available to the garbage collector. So that is, with one exception, any files mapped in without modification such as code can be paged out of RAM if the system wants to use that memory elsewhere. So unused pages are being flushed out. So this is the basic summary of this particular thing. So whenever there is an unused unused memory found, so that will be thrown onto the garbage. So next comes the security features in Android. Android is having a very beautiful security mechanism. It incorporates industry leading security features and work with developers and device implementers to keep the Android platform and ecosystem very safe. A robust security model is essential to enable a vigorous ecosystem of apps and devices built on and around the Android platform supported by the cloud services. So most of the applications, they use the cloud platforms. Like the one we see, the storage part. Suppose if you are using a Samsung phone, so Samsung drives are there. Suppose if you are using some Google features like the Google Gmail onto your mobile phone, so it provides once again a kind of cloud service. So there are most of the applications right now currently being on use, mostly use the cloud services. So this particular platform supports the security kind of systems whenever we use the cloud platforms. So you can see here the list of key components of the Android security includes not only the system and the kernel security. Whenever we talk about the system security or else the security feature of any operating system, it should holistically cover each and every feature. So system and kernel security are the basic things. However, verified boot, file system permissions, platform level security, program level security, cryptography, device level security, and then user level security, there are wide variety of security which can be handled by the Android operating systems. You can see whenever we talk about the security, almost each and every category of security is being addressed over here. So coming to the Android, it is, as I told you, this is an open source project and its goal is to avoid any central point of failure in which one industry player can restrict or control the innovations of any other player. To that end, Android is full production quality operating system for consumer products, complete with customizable source code that can be ported to nearly any device and public documentation that is available to everyone. So the beauty of the open source project of this Android is that it not only provides the source code, however, the meanwhile patches, whenever there is a bug appearing, that will be solved by some group people, that is a community, they will solve the bug, and then the patch that needs to be taken and embedded into our system, that also they provide. Not only that, whatever that they do, they follow the public documentation part. So in case of any help, in order to download or in order to access or in order to customize the things, the documentation part is always available and you can download the documentation. This is on the public domain. The documentation can be downloaded and can be gone through, and wherever the customization that you yourself has to do, so you concentrate on that particular documentation part, and they will specify that such kind is the basic features that we had provided, and you can tap on the other features that are there that you can do. So Android website, as you can see, the whole documentation and the source code is available on source.android.com, and Android open source project, that is AOSP repository, offers the information, source code, port device and accessories to the Android platform and ensures device meet the compatibility requirements. Sometimes, as we find, even though the new versions appears in the market, however, most probably because of the configuration of our phone, it may not be accepting the next level. Next level means next version. So there may be several signs of compatibility issues which will be popping up. So whenever a phone comes, it comes with the standard operating system, that is latest Android operating system. However, whenever a new version available, the whole downloadable and the compatibility lies with the kind of configuration that our phone has. So this is the website, official website of Android, www.android.com. Here you can see there are wide variety of like things that they had given. The documentation bar on the top right hand corner, they come up with the Android 11, the documentation part, and even they allows you the community participation also. Not only as a user we use the Android operating system, suppose if you wish to become an Android developer, there are several opportunities on these particular websites, official websites, where in which you yourself can enroll as a contributor also. So this is the help community that they wish to offer. This is the Android Enterprise Help Community, wherein one can participate, or else you yourself can give some sort of suggestions, or you can download, you can find the bugs and other kinds of things. You yourself can help to the community in order to rectify or in order to improve the operating system. So this is the repository website, wherein which you find several sorts of software which can be directly downloaded, and this repository is available on android.googlesource.com. So you can download the Git repositories for the Android. So this is another thing which is very much interesting feature for all our MCA PGDCA students, which is the official blog. So whenever a new feature comes, whenever a new architecture comes, or whenever a new feature inside the architecture comes, they officially share it on the blog, and this is Android official blog website. And you can see here Android 12 beta is designed for you. So you can download that particular beta version, and you yourself can test, and you yourself can find faults, and you can report it to the community so that they can do the improvements kind of thing. So this is an interesting official blog site, wherein which many people, they will read the official blogs of Android, the current status of the operating system, or else current developments in the Android operating system. So this particular official blog provides the latest in the Android operating system development. So thank you. I wish you had understand the whole thing that I wish to convey to you. We had started with the kind of devices that the Android is supporting in the right now till date, and then we had focused upon the evolution part, how this particular whole concept has been evolved, and then how the latest Android 12 is at our reach. And then later on we focused on to the architecture part. Architecture consists of 5 components. We had discussed all the 5 components. Then we had touched upon a little bit of process management, memory management, and then the security management. In order to participate you yourself into the, or else contribute you yourself into the Android development, I had shown you the way that you have to enroll onto their official websites. You can go through their blogs, official blogs, wherein which you can get the latest information of the Android. I wish you had understood the whole concept behind the Android. In the next session, let us meet with a new operating system. Thank you.